Hello everybody, my name is Melanie Leon, and today I'm going to be going over the main concepts of the peaceful end of life theory. So the peaceful end of life theory is constructed by two main theorists, the first being Shirley Moore and the second Cornelia Rowland. So in the peaceful end of life theory, there are five main concepts touched upon. And today I'm just going to be going over those five main concepts, giving a brief description and maybe some examples as we go through them. So the first point touched on by Rowland and Moore is the patient being free from pain. So pain affects both sensory and emotional state of being. So if the patient is disrupted in both emotional and sensory, this can disrupt their overall peaceful state of being. So the theorists state that this may be associated with actual or potential tissue damage, and for the patient to have an optimal end-of-life experience, they must be free from pain. So for example, if you have a patient who is after you assess them and you find that they're 8 out of 10 on the pain rating scale, they might be a little bit cranky, or they might feel a little bit down. They might not be as responsive to certain interventions that you're providing for them. So as a nurse, some of your interventions to alleviate this pain could be medication. So providing PCA pumps or providing medication when they're in pain, or if it's a routine medication, making sure that you administer that medication on time. This can, again, help to alleviate the pain. So the second point addressed in this theory is an experience of comfort. So Rowland and Moore use Pulkava and Pulkava's definition of comfort, which is defined as the state of ease and peaceful contentment and whatever makes life easier or pleasurable. So this ties in with that first concept that we touched on, which is the absence of pain, or making sure that the patient is not in pain, free from pain. So in order to make sure that they're experiencing comfort and that state of ease and peacefulness, you need to alleviate that pain. So making sure that goes also beyond just the pain, but it does in terms kind of tie in with that alleviation of pain. But that could be comfort as in something as simple as providing a blanket, making sure they're warm, making sure that they have everything that they need. So those two concepts are the first two. Now the third point addressed is the experience of dignity and respect. So the patient's dignity and respect is achieved through the patient's sense of self-worth. So this ties in with the ethical principle of autonomy. So we know that autonomy is loosely defined as the person's right to have their own opinion, their own perspective, values, and beliefs. So these opinions, values, beliefs all tie in with driving their decision-making, and it heavily weighs upon the decision-making in a patient's end-of-life decisions. So, for example, a patient who might have certain interventions in a different religion or belief or faith, they might not be able to have those same interventions done for them. So we need to be aware as nurses what their both beliefs are, what their belief system, religion, and individual choices are. So again, instilling that sense of autonomy for your patient, in turn, gives them that aspect of dignity and respect, and we need to make sure that those are addressed. So the fourth point addressed is the being at peace. So Rowland and Moore define peace as feeling of calmness, harmony, contentment, free of anxiety, restlessness, worries, and fear. So this ties in with a multitude of things. So this is physical, psychological, and spiritual. So the physical aspect again ties in with point 1 and point 2, which is that not being in pain, experiencing comfort. So in order to be at peace, you need to be free from pain, you need to be comfortable. So that can tie in with the physical aspect of it. Now the psychological aspect of being at peace could be just maybe something as simple as understanding everything that's going on, understanding the different scopes of your care, understanding what is being done and what will not be done. And so education plays a big part in that. Now, the spiritual aspect of a person's being or a person's sense of peace can be brought on by making sure that they are at peace, and that can be addressed by potentially getting someone in, such as a pastor or someone who is willing or is able to talk to them and explain things through their faith, through their religion, through their personal beliefs. And it's the nurse's responsibility to assess where they are at on that spiritual aspect as well, to address all of these different aspects of that, and making sure that your patient is at peace. So the fifth and final point is closeness to significant others. So this point encompasses the nurse's responsibility to include those that are close to the patient. So this can include the patient's husband, a wife, children, parents, outside family, and even potentially friends that they consider close to them. So this would mean that it's the nurse's responsibility to ensure that the family is educated in everything that is happening, that the family is informed, and involving the family as much as possible in all the different steps that encompass that end of life decision making, the end of life, carrying out everything. So, for example, if you have a patient who maybe is a little bit lonely, or who you realize that they might feel a sense of peace by being close to those, maybe their wife or their husband or even their children, making sure that you do everything and you also advocate for those patients to have those people there. But it also encompasses the nurse providing that educational portion to the family as well, because it's important for the family to be very well informed. So those touch on those 5 main concepts of the theory. But Rowland and Moore also stress 2 major assumptions which they believe are experienced in the end of life. So these are experiences during the end of life are both personal and individualized, and nursing care is an essential part of ensuring patients have a peaceful end of life experience. So again, as nurses, it's our responsibility to ensure that we are taking those correct interventions and achieving those 5 points and concepts. So involving family, making sure you're administering pain medication or helping them to alleviate that pain, making sure they're comfortable, and making sure all decisions are autonomous. So again, it's that nurse's responsibility, but also it's our responsibility to understand that every end-of-life experience is going to be unique in its own way, because every patient is different. Every patient's beliefs, every patient, their needs are very different. So understanding that and intervening when necessary and intervening as appropriate. So that concludes the main concepts of the peaceful end of life theory. Again, that's by Shirley Moore and Cornelia Rowland. Thank you.